For today's cup of coffee, we have a subject that is of great interest to me, and I'm hoping it will be of great interest to others. Youngest kid is very perturbed with me because something that I thought was simple, he made complex.
No,
because he has Aries.
She thought it was simple,
Aries,
but she's a fucking
chart.
Leo, and it's never simple.
And I have a lot of Virgo in my chart.
And it's never simple.
And the Aries and the Virgo mix is combustible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
yeah.
Oh, what we're going to be discussing, this is going to be like one of those mini series for us, which is for, several cups. Kid is looking at me evilly. He is. Anyhow, we're going to be talking about Psy Ops. And not just as far as government and different things like that. That will go into that. We all know that happens frequently and has happened for a long time. But a lot of this is just human nature. And so we're going to be talking about psychological manipulation today. And this is actually a branch of social psychology. And when I go through some of these things, I guarantee people will be going, I know somebody that does that. But it's also important for us to look at ourselves and go, oh, hell, I do that. Yeah, because it's never just one or the other. A lot of times we like to think of ourselves as flawless. Not me per se, because some of us that have self-esteem issues, it's like, and some life experience, it's like, oh, hell, everything's my fault.
Yeah.
That comes from being raised by narcissists. Yeah. So there's a lot of reasons. Why do people do what they do? And that was the basis of me trying to study psychology. It brought me no answers, or very few answers. So, anybody that studies psychology, they're trying to diagnose themselves. They really are. So that's just the basis of it. I don't know that we ever do, but it's a matter of being contemplative, which actually in some ways goes into the realm of philosophy. There's other people that have channels that are phenomenal as far as philosophy. Academy of Ideas is one of the YouTube channels that is great on that. I'm a fan of Stoicism.
Bullshit.
No, I really am.
Stoicism
is a good way to live. It is. It brings peace to my soul. But anyhow, this is from some of the websites that I found are sort of interesting because they're not standard sites per se on the psychologies. And this one is from a website that is called Psy Snow or something. It's PSYNSO. Science-o, I don't know. So, but the link will be in the description box. And I did the best I could to find the citations on this, which, other PhDs and different things that they were using. I did the best I could to try to trace it down. And they didn't give me a byline, so I don't know. It was the staff at Psy Snow. I don't know. They should have called it Psy I don't know.
Yeah.
And that would have been better. So, anyhow, with the psychological manipulation, yes, I like this. This is my genre on this, unfortunately. Psychological manipulation is a type of social influence that aims to change the perception or behavior of others through underhanded, deceptive, and even abusive tactics. Now, social being as far as relationship with other humans, not necessarily society at large, but that does not exclude society at large. Kid's nodding his head. That doesn't help you all at all. And by advancing the interest
This ain't my field. I don't know what
it is, but it is. It's everybody's field. They just don't know it yet. They don't know it yet. By advancing the interest of the manipulator, often at the other's expense, such methods could be considered exploitive, abusive, devious, and deceptive. Social influence is not necessarily negative. Not necessarily. And it is generally perceived to be harmless when it respects the right of the influence to either accept or reject it, or it's not duly coercive. So in other words, I don't know that it's necessarily influence as much as it is persuasion. But now persuasion can have a dark side of it too.
Yeah.
So as long as you leave somebody else, you can present information and allow them to make up their own mind, that's what you're trying to do. That is how it's supposed to be done. And if they don't accept it, leave it. You know? Because sometimes you can plant a seed and somebody can go back later and do their own research. Now, depending on the context and motivations, social influence may constitute underhanded manipulation. We're seeing that in an enormous amount. I think more so. It's always been there.
Yeah.
I mean, if you go back and read Sun Tzu, guess what? That's Psy Ops.
I don't know what that is.
The Art of War. He's looking at me funny.
I don't.
Seriously, if you go back, that is the manual as far as warfare. And it's all aspects of warfare. Some of it's very simple, like don't have your troops facing the sun.
No shit.
Well, I mean, it's just, some of it is very basic. So, in this, according to George K. Simon, who was supposedly an expert on manipulators, he says successful psychological manipulation primarily involves the manipulator because they're in control of the situation. That's their point, is to get what they want.
Yeah.
And this can be, by concealing aggressive intentions and behaviors, knowing the psychological vulnerabilities of the victim to determine what tactics are likely to be the most effective. So, if you want to say know your enemy or know your victim, actually, having a sufficient level of ruthlessness to have no qualms about causing harm to the victim if necessary, and consequently the manipulation is likely to be covert or relational to aggressive or passive aggression. The whole point, as far as someone successfully manipulating another person, is to do this on such a subtle level that the victim doesn't even know they've been victimized until basically too late. This happens frequently. Like I said, you can apply this to almost every aspect of life in today's world. And how manipulators control their victims, according to Harriet Breaker, and she was a social and clinical PhD. Here are some of the basic ways that manipulators control their victims: by positive reinforcement, which includes praise, superficial charm, superficial sympathy, or the crocodile tears, excessive apologizing, money, approval, gifts, attention, facial expressions such as a forced laugh or smile, and public recognition. There's a psychologist on YouTube also, Dr. Ramey, and she's really good. She deals with narcissism. Mm-hmm. And she calls it love bombing.
Yeah.
And that somebody, when it's setting you up, is exactly what it is.
Oh, yeah.
And then we go on to negative reinforcement, which includes nagging, yelling, the silent treatment, intimidation, threats and swearing, emotional blackmail, the guilt trip, sulking, crying, and playing the victim. And I will say on that part, females are notorious for doing that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So, and as far as swearing, that means cussing someone. We just cuss in general. We ain't cussing nobody.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, even amongst ourselves, we'll just, play at words, and everybody's like, why are you just saying that? It's like, look, this is our, personal, interracial, dynamics.
This is our banter. This is how we interact.
Interpersonal, I should have said. Interpersonal dynamics.
It's how we interact. Y'all
Other people
don't have to like it, but that's why y'all ain't in this family.
And we very much know the difference.
Yeah.
I mean, if one of us is angry, it's very plain.
Yeah.
And it happens. It doesn't happen that often, but it does happen because we're human. Intermittent or partial reinforcement. Partial or intermittent negative reinforcement can create an effective climate of fear and doubt. No, I'm not okay. And partial, I've got to say it again, partial or intermittent positive reinforcement can encourage the victim to persist. Okay, so one of this can be like, this happens a lot with addicts, and it goes into the realm of enabling as opposed to the intervention thing. And some of this includes forms of gambling. The gambler is likely to win every now and again, but will still lose money overall. Yeah.
Beam.
Comments? No comments?
I don't know what to say. This ain't my fucking field.
Okay, one of the ways, as far as being manipulated, punishment. Now, there's a difference even as far as with kids. That you have to. There's a difference between discipline and cruelty and punishment. Now, discipline can go in with punishment, such as, okay, you did something, I'm taking your Nintendo or whatever y'all do these days for a night or a weekend, which is more effective than after the age of 2, a swat on the bottom. They don't pay no mind to that. But you take away their shit, oh yeah, they'll pay attention, especially if it's electronic shit.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. And also another thing can, tasks and chores, kids need to be taught how to be part of the family, not royalty that everybody waits on them, because that's part of why our society today has gone out of hell. But to take part in family tasks and chores. But as far as punishments, sit there and go, you're going to clean out the garage by yourself. Oh yeah, that'll work. That will work very much. Okay, another manipulation tactic is traumatic one-trial learning, which includes use of verbal abuse, explosive anger, or other intimidating behavior to establish dominance or superiority. Even one incident of such behavior can condition or train victims to avoid upsetting, confronting, or contradicting the manipulator. And when I read that, I thought, damn, that is exactly when I went through the academy. Yep.
Yeah.
And a big fuck you to Doug Scales, who's out there somewhere. So, and then, going back to Simon, identifying the following manipulative techniques, such as lying. It's hard to tell somebody is lying at the time that they do it, although often the truth may be apparent later when it's too late. Because when you first meet somebody or whatever, you want to assume that what they're saying is truth. And then, we'll go on to why that happens later. One way to minimize the chances of being lied to is to understand that some personality types, including psychopaths, are experts at the art of lying and cheating. They do it frequently and expertly. Very subtle with these things. Government. I'm not kidding.
Don't trust them.
Well, they've got a whole lot of people that are psychopaths that are in positions of power.
Yeah.
Lying by omission. And this is a very subtle form of lying by withholding a significant amount of the truth. This technique is used in propaganda. Buddies, we've seen that. We're eat up with it. Denial. The manipulator refuses to admit that he or she has done something wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that can go into the realm of gaslighting, but that goes down here too. Rationalization, an excuse is made by the manipulator for inappropriate behavior. Rationalization is closely related to spin. Now, within that, that's sort of like when somebody's in an abusive relationship and the abuser, hits somebody and it's like, oh, look what you made me do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Taylor Swift's "Look What You Made Me Do."
Well, that's one of them. And another one of those excuses is instead of them admitting and owning that they did something to hurt somebody else, to sit there and go, oh, I'm sorry you got hurt. There's a big difference.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And let's see, minimization. I can read this stuff a whole hell of a lot better than I can try to articulate it. And this is a type of denial coupled with rationalization. The manipulator asserts that his or her behavior is not as harmful or irresponsible as somebody else was suggesting. By example, saying that a taunt or an insult was only a joke. Oh, everybody has heard that. Somebody say something shitty, catty, especially in public, they'll do this. And then come back, oh, I was just joking. No, you weren't joking. You were being an asshole.
Yeah.
And it's a matter of calling their hand on some of that. Selective inattention or selective attention. And manipulators refuse to pay attention to anything that may distract from his or her agenda by saying things like, I don't want to hear it. Especially that comes from when somebody's saying, hey, that was a really shitty thing to say. I felt hurt when you said that. That's when you'll hear the I don't want to hear it, because they don't want to be confronted by their own actions.
Yeah.
Diversion. Manipulators not giving a straight answer to a straight question and instead being diversionary, steering the conversation onto another topic. And addicts, hey, did you take that money? Oh, no, you just, it's like, oh, look, squirrel. No, that is not how that works. Evasion, similar to the diversion tactic, but giving irrelevant, rambling, vague responses and weasel words.
Weasel words?
Sure.
Like the words prodding, basically.
Sort of. I mean, to where you can't sort of understand what they're saying. Like I said, it is very similar to diversion. Mm-hmm. You've got covert intimidation, and that's throwing the victim into the defensive by using veiled, subtle, indirect, or implied threats.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That ain't good.
Guilt tripping.
None of these are good.
Special. No, they're not good. But you need to know what is going on, and you need to look inside the self. Yes, you do. And you need to look inside self and go, oh hell, I do that from time to time. And it's like, stop it.
I think everybody does these.
Sure, they do.
Some more so than others.
Yeah.
But.
Guilt tripping, a special kind of intimidation tactic, and the manipulator suggests to the conscientious victim that he or she does not care enough, is too selfish, or has it easy. This usually results in the victim feeling bad, keeping them in a self-doubting, anxious, and submissive position. That's sort of like parents, especially in poverty or something like that. If the kid is doing all that they can do, or to tell a 5-year-old, oh, look at you, you don't do anything, here I feed you, I clothe you, and you're just sitting there. What's a 5-year-old? I mean, yes, they can help with things, but you cannot imagine the times I've seen people do that to kids.
It's disgusting.
It is disgusting. Shaming is another one. This is the use of sarcasm and put-downs to increase fear and self-doubt in the victim. Manipulators use this tactic to make others feel unworthy and therefore defer to them. Shaming tactics can be very subtle, such as a fierce look or glance, unpleasant tone of voice, rhetorical comments, and subtle sarcasm. Manipulators can make one feel ashamed for even daring to challenge them. It is an effective way to foster a sense of inadequacy in the victim. And I will tell you this, there's a lot of, some of them are well-intentioned influencers that do this shit.
Yeah, I admit there are a bunch of people who are, honestly, they're really sweet people, but they don't realize that they're doing some of this stuff.
When you are putting down somebody because of how they look and different things, no, you don't know that person's story until you walk a mile in somebody else's moccasins. You know, I don't care if it's
Crowder.
Nah, that was what I thought too. That was exactly the one that came to mind on that.
Jackass.
Well,
he's a fucking asshole. He doesn't give a shit. He doesn't care that he hurts people's feelings. He doesn't care. He will do whatever the fuck he wants.
Well, the thing is,
because he is a narcissistic asshole too.
Now let's look at this. Who is his core audience?
Same people.
No, I mean, you've got a lot of, within that age group, you've probably got 18 to 35, 40 males. So if he says something shitty about females, that's acceptable within that group because that's not his target audience. By the same right, he doesn't understand by him doing that, not only does it make him look like an ass, but it's also because he's trying to persuade people on a different point of view. You don't do that by, offending and shooing away a large percentage of people that could be persuaded.
Didn't he used to be overweight?
No, I don't think he's ever had a weight issue.
You just wait till he gets older, then he'll have the weight issues, and then people will be saying the same damn thing to him.
Well, no, they probably wouldn't. But it's like there are a lot of reasons that people have weight issues, especially women as they get older. And even on that, you've got some of the women when they hit about 35 or whatever, and the bloom be off the rose a little bit, they panic. If they were trophy wives, they panic. Especially if they're married to a man that is successful and, influential and different things like that. Because there's not a shelf life on men like there is on women. That's just biology. It is. But at a certain age, you need to develop a little bit of wisdom.
And respectability.
Marry someone for who they are, not what's on the outside.
Exactly.
And that's just like one of the influencers that I listen to. When he had she was all decked out and she was all this and she had the nails and she had the hair and all this stuff. And I had told Kid, because I could see it on her, I said, it's not going to last. Not going to last at all. And it didn't even last a year, and she had cheated on him. But I had in the comment section, and I wasn't rude at all. I said, before you marry somebody, you need to think about, okay, if something happens to you where you have some kind of disability, where you become disfigured, whatever it is this person going to care for you? Same thing about, that goes on both sides. And people don't think about that. They think that they're going to be young and beautiful forever and, this fantasy, it's a fantasy. So, but think on that. And it's, like I said, the shaming, And if you're one of the people out there that makes videos and stuff, now remember this when you're making your videos, because I know that there's people that has much bigger channels than we are. And that's okay, because we got a little bit of wisdom here, and we're trying to share the knowledge. Playing the victim role, the poor me. Oh my God, that is just everywhere right now.
Yeah.
And this is a form of manipulation. We've seen it used as that. Victim of circumstance or somebody else's behavior in order to gain pity, sympathy, compassion, all that good stuff. And the thing is, they're manipulating the person all the time. Yeah. Vilifying the victim. You know, this is blaming the victim. And more powerful, putting the victim on the defensive while simultaneously masking the aggressive intent of the manipulator. It's like, well, if you hadn't been stupid, I wouldn't have had to have done that. If you had looked better, then I wouldn't have had to have looked at somebody else. You know, so what if you're working a 40-hour a week job? This person, you should have still done this and this and this. I know it's frustrating, but this is our world. We need to understand these psychological, tactics that are being used against us. Playing the servant role, cloaking a self-serving agenda in guise of a service to a noble cause. For example, saying that he's acting in a certain way for obedience or service to God or a similar authority figure. Oh, I've got to take care of this person because... And then the ultimate goal, because they get praise from the other healthcare workers that come in and check on the situation. We've seen that.
Yeah.
Of course, seduction. Oh my God. Using charm, praise, flattery. Flattery? Yeah, that did say that.
Yeah,
or overtly supporting others in order to get them to lower their defenses and give them trust and loyalty. And these guys, is it OnlyFans? Did I get it right this time? That these people will give some of these people thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
And that's really sad.
I mean, it is.
I don't. Anyhow. Projecting the blame or blaming others. Manipulator scapegoats in often subtle, hard to detect ways. Feigning innocence. Manipulator tries to suggest that any harm done was unintentional or they didn't do something that they were accused of, even if you sit there and watch them do it. That goes into gaslighting.
Yeah.
You can't trust your lying eyes and ears. You're too stupid to make that determination on your own. Now, the news is telling people that every day.
Oh, yeah.
And the manipulator may put on a look of surprise or indignation. That's why I turn off some of these screens, the talking heads in the boxes. And this tactic makes the victim question his or her own judgment and possibly their own sanity. My God, yeah. Some of these you're getting a large reaction from me because some of this shit I have gone through lots. And I bet everybody out there has gone through at least some of it. I hope that we don't have one of our people that is doing this. If you are doing this to somebody else, get help.
Yeah.
Seriously. Feigning confusion. The manipulator tries to play dumb by pretending that they don't know what you're talking about or is confused about an important issue brought to their attention. Such as you have an anger issue that maybe you need to seek help. What are you talking about? I don't have an anger issue. They say in a screaming voice.
Yeah.
Brandishing anger. And this is the use of anger to make sufficient emotional or of a sufficient emotional intensity and rage to shock the victim into submission. The manipulator is not actually angry. They just put that on as an act. And he wants and uses this anger whenever he doesn't get his way, he or she. I've seen that lots. Now that is full-blown Psy Ops as far as abused spouses and stuff like that. And it's not just women that are abused spouses. No. Especially male spousal abuse is one of the most underreported things that we have in our world today.
Because men are told to suck it up.
They are. And that's wrong. Nobody deserves to be hit like that. I mean, if you're just sitting there minding your own business and somebody uses that as... men, you're not supposed to be used as a punching bag. And I will tell you this, with this new movement of this squalling for equal rights, absolutely. Do I think that they should have been made to sign on the dotted line the way that my sons did? Absolutely. I believe in equal rights for these women. I also believe in equal lefts. Because, no, if you're going to be hitting on somebody, expect to get hit back. You can't have it both ways. Now, according to Breaker, there are vulnerabilities that can be exploited by manipulators, such as, they're calling it the disease to please.
What?
These are people pleasers. That they will deny their own needs, wants, whatever, in order to help others. That is not, and there's a lot of people that are followers of Christ or, believers, that they think that they have to sacrifice everything within them for somebody else. Now, there's a difference. People need to go back and read what that really means. Okay, an addiction to earning the approval and acceptance of others. I don't know that that's necessarily an addiction as much as it is training, especially if you were raised by narcissists. Emotophobia. Emotophobia, fear of negative emotion. Lack of assertiveness and the inability to say no. A blurry sense of identity. This is somebody with soft personal boundaries. These are the type of kids and people that can be talked into doing stuff even though they don't want to do it.
Yeah.
That happens lots. Something else that can be exploited is low self-reliance and an external locus of control, which means that, again, with the boundaries, that they don't have a thorough sense of self enough to where they can sit there and go, no, you're not going to treat me that way. No, I'm not going to do this. Don't be a sheep. Do not be a sheep.
No sheep.
And going back to Simon again, that other vulnerabilities, naivete. And the victim finds it too hard to accept the idea that some people are cunning, devious, and ruthless. That, or they're in denial about being victimized. We have half of a country that's like that right now.
Yeah.
Other countries have people that's like, oh, well, somebody can't possibly. No, they couldn't possibly be a lizard person. Yeah, they could. Over-conscientiousness. The victim is too willing to give the manipulator the benefit of the doubt and to see their side of things, in which they blame the victim. So, in other words, you not only have the manipulator manipulating the victim, you have the victim that is also taking the role of the manipulator.
Right.
Right. Because if somebody is beating the shit out of you emotionally, and then you continue to beat the shit out of yourself emotionally, so it's like you're getting double dosed on that. Stop that. And low self-confidence. The victim is self-doubting, lacking in confidence and assertiveness, and is likely to go on the defensive too easily. I'm not sure about that last one on that. Over-intellectualizing. Victim tries too hard to understand and believes that the manipulator has some understandable reason to be hurtful. Now, that's where you get a lot of people that are trying to help somebody else. It's complicated, but just, yes, you can understand somebody's background, why they are the way they are. That still does not give them the excuse or to hurt somebody else.
No, it doesn't.
Now, we've dealt with people that have had some really fucked up, heinous things done to them when they were kids or whatever, and that can go into them using drugs, doing criminal things, stuff like that. And to sit there, and that's where you get to that hardcore sponsor thing, to sit there and go, just because you're hurting, you do not have the right to hurt somebody else.
Right.
And to say it boldly and plainly and look them in the eye when you're telling them that.
Yeah.
Emotional dependency. The victim has a submissive or dependent personality. The more emotionally dependent the victim is, the more vulnerable they are to being exploited and manipulated. And like I said, this goes into every aspect. Goes into government, goes into the schools, goes into advertising, everything. Religious, massively in a lot of the religious communities.
Oh, yeah.
There is a
majority of it, actually.
There's a vast difference between having religious beliefs that is entirely personal and a very intimate thing, and going into a building. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing. If you want to go and worship with other people, that's all well and good. But realize within that building of peoples, you're going to have some peoples like we're describing.
Oh, yeah.
Both as far as the manipulator and those who are manipulated. Mm-hmm. But when you've got somebody that's supposed to be head of that building and they doing some of this stuff, how many times have we seen, oh, if you do that, you're going to hell. You didn't do this, you're going to hell. Yeah. You look like this, you're going to hell. And it's like, you ain't God.
Yeah, but that preached towards me.
We both have, honey. And Jacob Robert Cantor, he was a psychologist, and he was saying that the following are vulnerable to psychopathic manipulators. Now, these are truly the diseased. The psychopaths are top of the line as far as evil. That's all you can say is just evil.
Yeah.
So you may be vulnerable to a psychopath if you are too trusting, too altruistic. That means that you want to help other people too much. They will take advantage of people like that. Too impressionable, and that's, you can be overly seduced by charming people. It's if a con man didn't appear nice and charming, he couldn't be a con man.
Right.
Too naive, again, people just can't believe that somebody would do that. How many times have you seen or heard somebody say, I just can't believe they did that?
Many times.
That's because you didn't really know them.
Yeah.
Too masochistic, and that's where you get lack of self-respect and stuff like that. And it's like, oh, I deserved that. Govern me harder, daddy. Seriously.
Do not ever say that ever again.
I'm just saying that these people know. These people.
Do not say
it
that.
Disturbed him.
I will walk out of this room right now. Do not ever say that.
Too
again.
narcissistic. Narcissists are prone to falling for unmerited flattery, which is interesting because whoever is a narcissist can become a victim of a psychopath, which in some ways I think that's very interesting. Too immature, of course, that's why they pick on kids and young people and a lot of this stuff. Too greedy. If somebody comes up and it's like, oh, look, you can double your money. You can do all this. And that people that, as far as gambling, casinos and stuff like that. Too materialistic, and again, that's for loan sharks and get-rich-quick schemes. Too dependent. Dependent people, of course, they're looking for someone to love them, and those people can be a horrible target. Too lonely, too impulsive, too frugal. Now, that's where you get into some of the hoarders on some of this.
Yeah.
It's like, it's such a good buy. I had to buy all 23 of them. Yeah. And, of course, the elderly, because a lot of them just can't function the same way mentally and stuff. And I tell you, any of these people that takes advantage of older people, they need to take them back and horsewhip them.
Christian.
Who is that?
You
Remind
know who
me
that
again.
Is.
Oh, okay. Yes, I do. And then you've got, as far as the motivations of the manipulators, need to advance their own purposes and their gain at virtually any cost to others. And that's, like I said, that's psychopath. They have no compassion, no remorse, no ability to feel guilt. This is why I question, are they really human?
Yeah.
They have strong needs to attain feelings of power and superiority in relations to others, governments. They want to feel a need in control. And this control, it's funny, they put, instead of control freak, control freakery. Control freakery. We need to add that to our vocabulary.
Fuckery and freakery.
Yes. And to feel power over others in order to raise their own self-esteem. And then we have, as far as a lot of these manipulators have the following psychological conditions. One of them is a Machiavellian personality, which we will go into more detail on another cup. Of course, narcissistic personality, borderline personality disorder, avoidant personality, dependent personality, histrionic personality, passive-aggressive, type A, angry, antisocial personality disorder. Not all of us that are antisocial are mean. We just don't like the normal social. I just have oppositional defiant disorder. I really never got to the antisocial. And addictive personalities. So that's a lot. And I know that's a lot to cover in one cup. But by doing that, it draws attention to, oh, this is the shit that's being done. Mm-hmm. And it's being done, like I said, in the schools, in the churches, in the governments. Just about, society at large. It's going on internet, of course, TV, Hollywood, magazines, newspapers, if those things still exist. All of that stuff is designed to manipulate.
Yeah.
Even a lot of the research and stuff now, the science is designed to manipulate. So, if you know your enemy, and then to look and just, it's like, I've been screwed over that way before. Now what do I need to change about myself so I don't do that? Individuals, let them make their own choices, be it good, be it bad. Find out why. If you have the need to control someone else, find out why, because usually it's some deficit within self. Mm-hmm. Psy Ops 101.
Yes.
Kid's freaked. He's like, how is this supernatural? It is all supernatural.
It's not.
Yes, it is. It's spiritual attacks. That's exactly. You cannot separate. It's mind, body, and spirit. So, and if somebody's spirit's attacked, then that means their mind is attacked. And it will eventually get into the flesh. Stress, stuff like that, reduces your immune system. All that can cause... If somebody has a spiritual / psychological condition, it usually manifests in the body one way or the other. And that's where you get into studying like the chakras, which are different energy centers, and they control different parts of the body. It's not uncommon, the root chakra, if somebody has been molested, it's not uncommon for females to develop some kind of ovarian or uterine cancers if they don't deal with these things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're gonna have to censor that too.
Why?
The molested. You're gonna have to censor that one. That's on YouTube's block list.
Why?
Flag list.
If somebody has abused someone like
that word is on their block, is on their flag list.
Well, we'll
too.
just see what they do on that, because if I am discussing psychological issues,
it doesn't matter. It does not matter.
Well, we'll just see.
They have flagged so many videos. It's stupid. They do not want us talking about this sort of stuff.
If they want to be the Barney channel, if it's going to be just for children, they need to make that clear. I thought there was a YouTube for kids.
Yeah.
And if they censor it, this is not just going on YouTube. This also goes on BitChute, and this goes on Odyssey.
Yeah.
So, and that's the reason I tell these folks, if something happens and we were to get yeeted off of the YouTube, the ScrewTube, okay, you can find us on BitChute and on Odyssey.
Mm-hmm. YouTube is the ultimate narcissist.
They're the ultimate
abuser.
As far as manipulator. Mm-hmm. It's like, how dare you say that word? How dare you think that thought? How dare you talk about that Orwell was right and he just missed it by a few years? Mm-hmm. So, Psy Ops, this is why people need to understand what these things are and what they can do to, recognize it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, it is spiritual. It is a spiritual attack. We at war. And have been for a while.
Yeah,
so,
I agree.
Anything else that you wanted to add, or you just want out of this one?
I don't have anything to say other than my usual outro. Like I said, there's nothing I could add to this. Seriously, there's nothing I can add to it.
I think a lot of it was just you sitting there going, I remember when this happened. I remembered when that happened. And
yeah, pretty much. That's why I'm quiet the whole time. And it's like, no, I don't like, no.
But it is a matter of getting that out of your spirit so that you can heal, for real. Because other than that, it's like having a boil until you get that core out. It's going to fester over and over. So, if you've had experiences with paranormal,
that's a
supernatural
analogy.
it's a Leo analogy.
That is a vile.
It's true.
A vile, disgusting.
But people understand that.
It's still disgusting.
If you've had experiences with paranormal, supernatural encounters, UFOs, aliens, cryptids, if you have had psychological things like that, if you would like to share those in an email, that's fine. Realize I am not in a professional capacity anymore as a counselor. There is in the links in the description box and stuff like that. If you do have psychological issues that you can, if you go into crisis, then the national hotline for help that information is there. If you have local, regional, family, myths, legends, any of those things, email us cupofcoffeewithscream@gmail.com. Know that you're loved. I know this is a longer cup, but it needed to be done. This was sort of the direction I was led for the next little bit.
Yeah. It's all good. Don't forget to like, share, comment, and most of all, subscribe and click that little notification button or whatever for notifications of our daily uploads. Yeah.
We'll see you on the next cup.
Yeah, we'll see you on the next cup. Bye.
Bye.